Hey guys, I'm Naval Yemul here. So in this video, we are going to see about how the input and output statement works in Python. So I'm using a Google Colab for that. I'll be giving you the link for this Google Colab in the description, so you can also refer this. So let me write input and output statements. So till now we have seen like how to assign a variable. Suppose if I say a equal to 10, and if I say print a, so your a will be printed here, that is 10. Suppose if this is changing and I want to take a value from the user, so that's what I'm talking about, the input statement. And what about output? So output is nothing but just we have to use a print statement. So whatever you want to print it or whatever you want to show it as an output, you can show it by using this print statement. But we are now focusing on how the input statement works. So now we are using Python 3, Python third version. If we are in the Python second version, there we have a raw input. We are not talking anything about the Python 2 now. We are only focusing on Python 3. Now you can see here, whatever we have taken a equal to 10, that is printed. Suppose I want to ask this value from the user. Hey, I want the user to decide the value. So for that I have to give an input value. So if I say a equal to, and if I say input, so that is a keyword. Input is a keyword. And if I say the user like, hey, can you please enter any number, enter a number, okay. And if I say now print a, now what happens if I run this? It will ask you the message like enter a number. So whatever we have written in this double quotes, that will print, and it will ask you to enter a number. And if I say suppose 50, and if I press enter, so it will get here as a 50. Okay, you can put a colon here, space colon, something like that. And then if you run this, now if I put a 100 value here, and if I run, so you get the value as 100. Now the important question here is, hey, what is this data type? So I have taken this a looks good, a is 100. Can you tell me what is the data type of this a? Okay, so to know the type of a, what you'll do, so you'll just write print the function type of a. So what is the type of a? Now it is integer. Now if I write the same function, can you print the type of a? And if I run this, now you will be surprised to see the value of a is 100, whatever we are printing here, and the data type is string. How it is possible, we will talk about that. So now let me take a new variable. For example, I take b equal to, and if I say input function, and I'm checking enter anything, okay, enter anything. So user may enter a number, user may enter a boolean value, user may enter a complex number, user may enter anything, okay. So it is up to him. If I write print type of b, now let us do run this. And now if the user enters the value called Python, so he's entering something Python, so it is Python and the data type is string. That looks good. But if the user enters some integer or a float, so if the user enters 10 100.5 or 10.5 in a float, and if you run this, hey, this is also showing the string. How come it is showing the string? So here you need to understand, in Python 3, I mean in the Python third version, the input function always return the type, return type is string. I'll write like this. Input function return type is always string. So irrespective of what the user is entering, the data type will be always a string. Here we have seen, we have entered a float, we have entered a string, we have entered a, if you try to enter a boolean also, so let me put a boolean, so we know how to use a boolean, and if I enter, so we get string. So how to overcome this? So we need to do a typecasting for that. So what do you mean by typecasting? So we have to say, like we have to decide that what user is going to enter. So let me take this way, just give me a second. Yeah, now instead of writing just input, now you can see here, if I say c equal to input, and if I say, I'll say the user like enter any number. So if I say enter a number, so user may enter a number only. He may enter a number. And if I say print C, and if I say print type of C, if I run this, even though we have written enter a number, if user enters suppose 100, and if I run this, so it is a type string only. How come it is a string? So we need to know that this input is always giving you a string. So if you need to change this, how you can change? So here you need to do a typecasting, like put an integer before a string. So you put an integer before that string and you complete this bracket. So this is a string. Now it will convert to an integer. So your string will convert to an integer. Now if I run this, it will ask you to enter a number. So if I write 100 here, that is converting to an integer. You can see here, that is converting to an integer, and now it is 100. Your data type is integer. Before that it was just a string. I hope you are getting. Exactly. So if I want a number from the user to be float, so if I say float, so just say float, and I'll say enter any float number. If I run it, so if the user enters 1000 point something like this, and it will be float. But the problem here is, if you are writing enter any float number or enter anything, how does the user knows that he is going to enter the same number? Okay, so let me copy this here. So if you say that enter a number, and user might not be so much familiar with this, so if user enters 10 like this, so this is a number, user doesn't know that it is an integer, it is a string, he doesn't know anything, he is a layman. So if you are asking enter a number and if he is entering 10, can you tell what happens here? Can you guess? If you run this, you will get an error saying that your string cannot convert to a integer. Yeah, now you can see here we got an error. Oh, just a second. Yeah, you can see here invalid literal for integer with base 10 10. So this will give you an error. So here every time we have to specify this integer, but we have one different function in Python that is really helpful. I'll be telling you that in 2-3 minutes. So before that, let us go and do a simple program, a very simple, I can call it as a baby steps. So suppose if I take a variable x, and if I say input and integer, because this input is in the data type always returns in a string, I'm going to convert that into an int, and I'll say that for the user enter first number, okay. I'm going to add two numbers, very simple. Y equal to integer and input, and I'm going to take a second number from the user only. I'll say enter second number from the user. Okay, very simple program, guys, very simple. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use print x plus y. So whatever the user enters, that will be stored in the x variable, the second number will be stored in the y variable, and you are going to add these two and it will be printing here. Okay, so first number, let me take 500. Second number, let me take 400, and just enter. So your value is 900. You can do some changes here. You can say that the sum of two numbers is. Okay, you can do in this way, and here you need to put a comma. This is very important. So whatever you write in a double quotes, that will be printed, and after the comma, whatever expression you are giving, that is adding x and y, it will add both and it will print all this. You can see if I write triple one, oh sorry, yeah, if I just by mistake I have pressed this, so it is showing error because we want only an integer. So if I write triple one and if I write triple two, your the sum of the two numbers is triple three. A very simple program for adding two numbers in Python. So if you want adding three numbers and three numbers taking the input from the user, so you can take x y z and input, and you can add all these three numbers. You can create hundreds of programs here, simple programs, adding two numbers, multiplying two numbers, taking from the users, taking the power, multiplication, division, floor division. You can do all those things. Okay, what I want to highlight in this session is there is one function called as a evaluate function in Python 3, that is evaluate function. The short form of that evaluate is evolve. So we call it as a evolve function. You will write in this way. Okay, so let me show you the use of this evolve function. So if I take x and if I don't know what user going to enter, suppose if I say int and if I say input enter anything, just a second, enter anything. Okay, so I don't know exactly what the user going to enter. The user going to enter a number or a string or a float or a boolean. I don't know exactly what is happening. So if that is the case, or if you want to know the data type directly, so here we can replace this int and you can use this evolve function. Very important and very simple. If you take evolve function, now if the user enters anything, for example if he enters 10, and if I run this, you can see here it is an integer. So it will automatically evaluate whatever the user enters. So that is a specialty of this evolve function. If I write Python, so hey, I have taken a string. So basically this input will give you a string only, but if I write it evaluate and if I run this, if I run enter here, now you can see, just a second, you are getting an error here because Python is not defined. Now if you want to define a string, you have to put that in a string like this. So double quotes should be mentioned, otherwise you will get an error. So if you use double quotes, you get as a string. If you run this again, and if I want to display the float number or floating value, so without changing to a float, this eval function automatically shows that as a float. And if I give or if I pass a list, so how to pass a list? So just put a square brackets and you can say 10 comma 10.5 comma, and you can say Python something like this. So list, we have seen the details of the list. You can put a list and now you can see the data type is list. So this evolve function will take care of evaluating what the data type is. So this is a very special type of function in Python, that is evolve function. Thank you guys. Thank you for watching this video. So I hope you have enjoyed this session. So in the next video, we are going to see about how the output statement works. Keep learning.